Hey there folks, John here with Through My Lens, and today I'm coming to you with another knife-related video. Today we're going to be taking a look at this Shirogorov F3R, and I'm going to be reviewing it, but I'm also going to be comparing and contrasting it to the newer version of the Shirogorov F3, which I also have, which is the F3NS. I bought the F3NS about a month ago. If you haven't done so already, go back and watch the review because so much of what's in that review is applicable to this knife as well. They're really not that different, and I'll talk more about that later. I would also encourage you to go back and take a look, if you have not already, at my unboxing video for this to get my first impressions on the F3R, because I think you'll find that interesting, as well as how I detail kind of my plans for this knife, which I bought as kind of a project knife. So the F3R, again, is the previous version of the F3, the newer version being the F3NS. And again, they're really not that different. The differences are very subtle. I've been carrying this almost non-stop since I got it a few days ago. Actually, I've been carrying it as my primary knife every day since, and I'm really loving it. Really is quite fantastic. In terms of differences between the F3R and the F3NS, this F3R has white carbon fiber scales. My first experience with white carbon fiber scales, and I'm really happy that I took a bit of a risk and I purchased this one. Purchased it pre-owned, by the way. Did not purchase it new. This F3NS was purchased new from Recon One. Both of them actually did come from Recon One, however. But the white carbon fiber scales, I think it gets that designation because there are some kind of white flecks in the carbon fiber that you can see in certain lights. It's very subtle, but it's very spectacular. It's gorgeous. You can see my reaction in the unboxing when I take a look at it. It just took my breath away. I was not expecting to like these scales that much. Again, I talk about what I'm going to be doing with this knife moving forward, and having ordered some replacement scales from Department 13 Knives. And now I almost regret doing that because, again, these white carbon fiber scales are so good. Clearly, there's a difference here with the blue carbon fiber on the F3NS. This particular style was not offered during the F3R, so yes, it's a difference. It's not necessarily an evolution, though. It's just kind of it's not a revolutionary change, it's more of an evolution in just the scale designs. But I love the carbon fiber that Shirogorov uses on their knives. You will, however, see some size differences in both the pivots and in the handle screws on the bottom parts of the knives. The pivot screw on the F3NS is larger in diameter than on the F3R. Conversely, the body screw on the F3R is larger in diameter than the body screw on the F3NS. Aren't those guys at Shirogorov wacky that way? That's kind of interesting. We'll flip the knife over so that you can see the clip sides, and again, you will see far more similarities than differences. I kind of thought that there was going to be a difference, that the clip was upgraded on the F3NS. That is not the case. They are identical clips. I will say the whatever medium that they used to put the tumble finish on these clips, of course the clip on the F3NS is anodized, where it is not on the F3R here, but whatever medium that they used, and particularly before they anodized this one, is a little bit, I guess, rougher or more coarse on the F3R, as it has more of that worn finish. It actually does have one little wear mark here on the clip from the previous owner, which I don't care about. It's very subtle and very small. Maybe I'll get that refinished pristine again later on. Maybe not. Maybe I'll be less concerned when I carry the knife because it's already got the mark. But again, they're pretty much the same pocket clip here. Moving to, I guess, the top side here of these knives. There we go. So again, looking at kind of this top side, you will see that they both use kind of a gear pattern backspacer, very typical of Shirogorov. The one difference here in the F3R is that you will see that it kind of dips down here on this end and goes kind of angles into the liners here. Both of these, of course, are liner lock. They didn't do that on the F3NS. They decided to just go straight across and be much more uniform and consistent, which I have to be honest, I do like that a little bit more on the F3NS. The only other difference that you're going to see here is that there is a subtle difference in the jimping that's on the flipper tabs. It's just slightly more aggressive on the F3NS. It's not anything that you really notice till you have both knives in hands and flip them both at the same time, and you get just a little bit better traction on the F3NS versus the F3R. It's very subtle, but you know, when you compare them, it's noticeable. Otherwise, the flipper tabs are the same size and shape, so no real changes there. There are some differences in both the blade shape, in some of the milling and contouring that they do on the F3 versus, or the F3NS versus the F3R. You can see that the F3NS has a lot more belly than the F3R, and there is a difference in the jimping pattern on the two knives. And I did complain a little bit about this in my review of the F3NS, that this jimping pattern, which while aesthetically very pleasing and kind of is a kind of visually more of a match to the backspacer, there's no traction provided by this jimping here. You do actually get some real honest to goodness traction on the jimping that's on the F3R, so I do prefer it from that perspective. If you're looking for a harder use knife and you know, looking for a difference between the two, I might actually prefer the F3R in that regard. So, you know, again, anybody who thinks that the F3NS is just you know, must be so much better, you know, than the F3R because the F3NS is newer, I would just encourage you to think differently about that. They're almost identical. In some respects, some people may prefer the F3R, again, for reasons kind of, you know, like the jimping, for example. There is another area where the F3R does kind of have an advantage over the F3NS, and that's in weight, surprisingly enough. Now, they both have skeletonized liners. If you look at my disassembly video that I did on the F3NS, you get a good example of those liners. I think the lightening that they do on those liners is probably the same. If we look at the weight on the F3NS, again, 4.66 ounces, just the same as what I weighed it when I did my review. But if you weigh the F3R, it actually weighs a little bit less. Not much, 0.04 ounces, so a pretty imperceptible difference. Why is there a difference? Well, if I had to guess, that weight from that larger diameter pivot probably is the culprit, which adds a little bit of extra weight, not much, but a little bit of extra weight to the F3NS. There's, again, the only other aesthetic difference here that you're going to note, hopefully the light picks up here, that there is some milling here on the carbon fiber scale on the bottom of the F3NS, and that is present on both sides of the handle scale here. Again, hopefully I believe you're going to be able to see that in the light. That milling is not present on the F3R. And I actually like that a little bit better. This pattern is very subtle, and in a lot of light you don't miss it. But I do like the cleaner look on the F3R. They both have some 3D milling, however, that does give an interesting light texture, and certainly the visual effect is just amazing. I just absolutely love these carbon fiber scales that are on these Shirogorofs. From an action perspective, again, if you're thinking, oh, the F3NS is newer, it must be better. Nope, they're identical. As a matter of fact, this F3R is more drop shut than my F3NS. Maybe because my F3NS is not quite as broken in as the older F3R. Again, it was pre-owned. This one does kind of break right at the end, which a lot of people are going to like, versus this F3NS, which is pretty drop shut, almost as good, very, very close, in fact, to my F95 Frag, which is completely drop shut. It is just fantastic in that regard. One of the best knives in my collection from that perspective. And the F3R here, again, the R standing for refined. This example is an upgrade over the previous F3. It does have the multi-row bearing system, just like the F3NS. Pretty much all the upgrades, in fact, that are present in the F3R are in the F3NS, including the blade steel. Both of these have the M390 demarcation on the blades. So, and of course, they both have that famous Shirogorov, very consistent stone wash finish on the blades. And it's just so beautiful. Again, I don't see the F3R as being inferior in the least to the F3NS, and it really, I kind of have to laugh that, when you do see the F3NS come up on the secondary market, and it's not often because the F3NS is really hot right now, particularly the blue scale variant, but the others, the purple and the bronze, are selling very quickly as well. When they do come up, people are paying at or even above the retail price found on the Recon One site, whereas an F3R, you're seeing some substantial reductions in price from retail because it's the older model, even when they're pristine, which again just surprises me because there's so very little difference between these two knives. They're both just fantastic. Really like them both. I am looking forward to seeing what those Lightning Strike carbon fiber scales that I ordered from Department 13 Knives are going to look like. It might be nice to kind of change back and forth with these, but again, these are just gorgeous. These this white carbon fiber that's on this knife. Again, I just really like it. So some great deals out there in the secondary market. If you can find an F3R and you don't own a Shirogorov, or maybe you don't own an F3, I would highly recommend the F3R. Just really like it. Well, there you have it. There's my review and comparison of the F3R from Shirogorov, comparing it to the F3NS. Hope you enjoyed this video. Take care. God bless. We'll see you in the next one.
I hope you've enjoyed this production from the Through My Lens YouTube channel. If you did, please click on the like button and do share the video on social media. If you'd like to see more content like it, please do subscribe to the channel, follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and do check out Through My Lens at www.throughmylens.org.